Hello everyone, Kilted here. Look, I'm just going to put it this way, right? I'm going to start posting a lot more videos here. Some are going to be shorts, some are going to be really short videos like this one will be today. I'm still going to try to post videos that are about half hour long, but it's also kind of gotten to the point to where I'm doing more stuff and showing more stuff to where the videos are going to be closer to an hour or more. So I'm sorry about that, but that's kind of the way that it is. If y'all like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. Okay? But today we're going to sit here and discuss revolvers. Okay, so full disclosure here. I've already taken this gun apart and have cleaned it and that kind of thing. I wasn't going to do a video on it because it was in such poor shape. But once it cleaned up, I changed my mind. But you can sit here and still see on the trigger, right? That is rust pitting and everything else. And on this side, there's more. There's rust pitting on the cylinder itself. But there was rust all back here, all inside here. You can still see some of the pitting right there. I mean, this thing was just in very, very bad shape, right? And the story on this one is this is a guy's truck gun, right? So it stays in his truck all the time. He went out to shoot it, and he shot all 5 rounds, and then sat here and tried to eject them, but the cylinder would not release, okay? And you can see there's still a good bit of rust up here on the knurling. I scrubbed the best that I could to get it out, but you could not open this cylinder, okay? So I wanted to explain how the cylinder on a lot of these Smith & Wessons, some Colts, Rugers, so on and so forth actually work, okay? So if you look, I'm going to try to move my fingers out of the way. Right down here, why can I not get it to focus? There we go, right? And as I move this back, right, you see that it goes in, okay? Now, oh, why you move it back? You have to move it forward in order to unlock it. You're right. But that coincides with this little dimple here, okay? Right? So when it's closed up, this is under more spring tension than this is. So it will actually push this back and lock it. But that's not the only thing that happens. If you look towards the front of the revolver here, you will actually see that this part of the rod is hollow, okay? And if you look in the channel, you'll actually see that little black piece, which is also under some decent spring tension, right? Okay? So basically what happens is when I close this, right, the spring tension on this one is locking up here. The spring tension that's on that little nub pushes back into the revolver itself. Now, granted, there is a little bit more going on here, but I'm going to try to keep this basic, right? So pretty much what you're doing is when you push this forward, you're pushing that dimple in, but also watch up here, right? You see it moves as well, right? Ingenious! So you're unlocking both of those at the same time. Well, what had happened is this plunger was basically rusted in place. I had to soak this in oil, really try to break up that the best that I can. Then I was able to get the cylinder out after fighting a good bit and put it in the sonic cleaner, and it helped break up a lot more there. But what also happened is here in the crane area, right, it was just rusted and almost seized, okay? So the reason I bring that up to start with is a lot of people think that stainless steel doesn't rust, right? Wrong. Stainless steel will still rust, okay? And once I got all that, right, actually broke free, and before I put it into the sonic cleaner, I just went ahead and completely disassembled the gun because I saw how bad this was. I can't show the back of the trigger here, but it is basically black now from the rust and the pitting and everything else. I did my best to try to scrub all of that patina out, and I tried polishing it and everything else, and I got a good bit of it, but it's still not the best, right? Customer doesn't really care how it looks, he just wants it to function, right? But now I wanted to bring in a tip because I have gotten some revolvers in here as of late, to where people have watched a YouTube video and don't really know what they're doing, okay? I don't know if they just watched a bad video or if they just didn't understand the video that they were watching. But first off, after you pull all out these screws, right? Some have 3, some have 4. We're not getting into that. Never, ever, ever take an old screwdriver and get in here and pry, okay? You will tear stuff up. What you actually need to do is use a little thing that we learned in science class called inertia. This is just a hammer, right? 4-ounce hammer, handle, probably weighs right at 4 ounces, right? You're going to hold the gun in your non-dominant hand, your hammer handle in your dominant hand. You're going to lift it up, and you're just going to sit here. Ta-da! That's it, right? Because now let's take a look at this. So right up here is actually a locking tab, right? And some of them also have them up here. This model doesn't, okay? I have seen a few that have one here on the back, but that's mostly like a European style design, an old European style design. So I don't see those very often, but I will almost every single revolver that comes in has this locking nub that's here, right? Now, I'm just going to remove that out of the way because it's going to make my life easier putting this back on, because then I don't have to bump the camera as much. So, what you do to reinstall is pretty much the same thing. You will put it in at an angle. I'm trying to move my hand out of the way. Put it in at an angle so that tab gets in, and you're going to set it down, right? But you see, it is not all the way in there, right? Now, you could sit in here and push with your thumb, but you take the risk of bending this. And if you bend this or damage it, you see all these holes? Those holes line up with these pins, right? The 2 pins that are under, well, 3 pins that are under a lot of stress, and why I stress people never to take off their side plate and then work the action repeatedly, okay, is your hammer pivot pin here, right? Your trigger pivot pin, and also this pin here, okay? Now this pin is always under a lot of spring tension because you can see the spring right there, right? This works a lot of different things, but mostly the trigger, okay? Trigger reset, okay? So if you bend this to where these holes that are on the plate do not line up properly with the holes here, you have an unsupported pin, okay? And when you have an unsupported pin and you go to work that action, that pin, rather than being nice and straight and proud, is going to sit here and start bending one way or another until it snaps, right? And then what I have to do as a gunsmith is I have to go in from the inside, finish breaking those off, drill them out essentially. So yeah, putting holes in this nice pretty side, right? And then go back in and put in new pins, right? And needless to say, that is not a cheap or easy job to do. What is cheap and easy, so you don't have to do that, is do not bend or mar up or tear up your side plate, right? So once again, I'm going to have it lifted up just slightly, just so I know it makes it into all the recesses. and I set it down, right? Now we still got a gap. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use our friend again, our handle. And you see, I'm not whacking this thing so hard that it's putting massive amounts of dents in this, right? Yeah, there are dents. Some of that is for me dropping it on the ground, you know, so on and so forth. Some of it is from doing stuff like this, but they're not massive. I'm not sitting here, right? I'm just tapping it, okay? So that's a nice little tip for you. And also what I'll tell people is when you go to put in the screws, if you look at the screws here, let me move the gun out of the way so I can move the screws down, right? When you look at the screws, you're like, hey, none of these are exactly the same, right? These two are pretty daggum close though. This one, of course, is a much longer, so that's going to go with my grip. And this one is a lot shorter. Well, that's not the only thing that's different. If you look at this head, you see it's flat. But yet if these other two are rounded, right? So a quick way to say which one goes where is this flat one will be covered up by a grip. So which hole is covered up by a grip, right? And that'll tell you where that screw goes. And then the other two, on some models, especially the Colts, right? Pay really close attention to your screws because they are different. In most Smith & Wessons, the other two screws are going to be the same. Just be careful putting them back in, that kind of thing, right? So yeah. So once again, this was just a kind of quick video. We're right at like 12, 13 minutes now. Just showing some stuff, because when I get stuff like that in my shop, I'll fix it. But understand, if you bend that side plate, those side plates aren't common, right? It's not like I can go to any shop and buy them, right? It does take time to look them up and find them and that kind of thing. So yeah, just be careful of that. So anyways, if you like this video, like, comment, all that fun jazz. And until next time.